Force feedback is a hotly debated, controversial, sometimes polarizing topic among us sim racers. Everyone has their own setup of wheelbase, steering wheel, pedals and accessories, different drivers, and last but not least, different expectations of how a certain car should drive and feel. Consequently, everyone has their own concept of realistic, immersive, or arcady. This makes it very difficult to make general statements. With so many parameters to set in the driver and game, it's easy to lose track of what's related and how. AMS2 is here no exception, because in addition to the driver settings of your wheelbase, there are also the in-game settings, gain, low force boost, FX, and damping, which can significantly influence the driving behavior. Moreover, let's not forget about the preset you are obliged to choose, namely Default, Default Plus, or Custom. They work as a foundation or basic drive feel. Since version 1.4 of AMS2, I have been using the Custom FFB rFuktor 5.0.1K and in TrueDrive, the Simucube driver software, the profile rFuktor 501K Kuku tune with the following wheelbase settings. So for the last 12 months or so, my in-game FFB settings more or less looked like this. However, since version 1.5 changes the driving physics partly drastically, and also inspired by your comments in my last video, I put my FFB settings once again to the test, checked and tweaked both the wheelbase settings as well as the in-game settings, and I even gave the presets Default and Default Plus another chance. Where I finally ended up and why is what you're going to see in this video. To be clear, this is not a guide for the perfect FFB in AMS2. Instead, I want to show you what works for me and why, based on my equipment and my personal preferences. I cannot guarantee that it will work for you, but what you will probably be able to take away are some principles and guidelines, tips or basic settings on which you may then build your personal optimal FFB. So let's get started. Our test track today is Laguna Seca, and to showcase the differences in handling and FFB, I will mainly be driving the BMW M3 E30 of the German Group A/DTM. Why? Because this car is awesome. It's an epitome of driving pleasure, and its traditional steering as well as overall mechanical and analog nature requires not only precision but also some muscles. So, and there's of course another value, which is car or vehicle specific. This is the vehicle specific FFB. I normally keep it on 100%, not touching it unless I feel that 100% for some reason won't fit. Then I will adjust it. But normally I keep that on 100. But please keep in mind that this is another factor with which you can finally influence the heaviness of your force feedback. So what I'm checking here now is my common TrueDrive settings and also my common in-game settings using the Custom FFB. And out of the box, I'd say this feels great. Great. The direct drive doing its thing. It's not that rubber band feel that you think you're walking, literally against a rubber bend. But it's that sort of natural resistance, getting stronger, feeling quite natural. The faster the car is when you turn in. Let's deliberately use the curbs here. I'd like to feel them, and I actually do. Remember, this is a touring car, still from an era where it was pretty close to the production car. So no comparison to today's DTM or other touring car series. The BMW here has ABS, but that's it. Nothing else, no power steering, no traction control, no other driving aids. So it's still a pretty raw experience, yet I think modern enough to feel good in it, somewhat comfy. Yeah. Super controllable oversteers. Yeah. I mean, FX is always
personal and flavor. If you want to feel the curbs even more, well, then just dial in the effects, but the effects slider. Completely up to you. But the basic feel, wow, that's so cool. Okay, I would like to change one thing, and this is indeed the basic setting in the true drive with the slew drive value on 0, as you can see here.
So what we are going to do now is to change that value to the recommended 0.21, and let's see if that makes any difference.
So to test this value, we will of course have to go over these curbs and sausage curbs. Yeah. It's set to reduce the amount of rattling when going over curbs or sausages. So let's see, let's hike them all, if possible. Well, yeah. I think I know what they mean. But guys, okay, this is flavor. This is flavor. It's completely your own personal preference, how much you want to feel these curbs. Some like it, others don't. Also, this heavily depends on the car you're driving. I mean, this car, for example, though a racing car, it's still a touring car based on a production car. Meaning, the whole suspension is a bit more forgiving than in other series like Formula 1, of course. So I'd say, well, personal flavor. Stick with what you want. But as a base setting, as a base profile, in True Drive, this is the one for me. This is the whole foundation on which I then build the further stuff. So, let's do a more major change. Just to quickly go through these values. In my case, the recommended gain for my Simucube Sport and from the profile, also from the developers, is 30 to 40, 40-ish something. And I found that 40 for me is kind of the sweet spot. Then low force boost, they say, keep it on 2. The profile says 0. For me, there's no difference, so I kept it on 0. FX is what we've talked about. It's mainly flavor. I keep it around 20, perhaps 15, sometimes 10, depending on the car. Damping is a very important value. Don't underestimate that. I've had it for quite some time on 50, and I've been doing perfectly fine with it. Prior to this video, I've tested it again with 0. There's no way I'm going to use that. There is still then no damping, and the oscillations, the overall, artificial vibrations for me are nothing to look for, actually. So the important thing is that you need a certain amount of damping here. But now, for the type, the preset, so to say, let me change from custom to default. And now that should make a huge difference. Default is, well, the default driving experience imagined by Razer, the one profile they seem to have based the whole game on. So, first thing I noticed that it's a lighter feel, almost feels like power steering, at least when doing small changes on the wheel. But then it increases and gets heavier. There's more resistance. The greater the angle, the higher the speed. Yeah. But, and this is the problem I have with the default. In my opinion, it doesn't feel as natural. And as, I have to use that term here, realistic, as I know it from real cars. And I have driven cars without power steering, a lot of them. I'm a kid of the 90s. No, it doesn't feel as direct and detailed and informative. But this kind of resistance here in those corners where I need to put in a lot more steering angle, this is more a rubber band feel for me. Also, I think there's a significant larger amount of basic vibrations in the wheel. It's only vibrations, no oscillations. Don't get me wrong, it's not that the wheel, like with a high menu spring, tends to move from one side to the other. That's not it. But I don't know what they like to simulate or emulate here. I mean, it's not road feel, it's not necessarily the engine, so okay. On the other hand here, the curbs, there was a completely loose moment when I just braked. No force at all, and these are impressions I won't have with the custom file. Let's go over the sausages here. Hardly any feeling. And actually, I don't want to dial in the FX even more. So, sorry, Razer, I don't like that very much. And to be honest, if I had to drive only this preset, I wouldn't have played that game as much as I did. So, another one. That's the default plus. Let's keep, of course, the further values on what they are to have a objective comparison. And let's go. Default plus. Default plus. Yeah, that's a bit more resistance in the wheel. In low speed corners like that one, the hairpin. But even more vibrations in the wheel. But basically much better for my taste, guys. It feels more natural to me. Yeah, good. So far this actually could be an alternative. At least with this car on this track. What I don't like, again, is the constant vibrations, even when going on a straight. We're not putting much input into the wheel. One could argue, yeah, that's the engine, that's whatever. The slight bumps that you feel, but they don't feel like it, you know? It's... In reality, it's smoothed out and it just feels different. Yeah, but that's much better for my taste. Much better. So, Default Plus, in my opinion, is the only alternative to a custom FFB file. Yet, I still like my custom FFB better. So, let's switch back to that one. And I will try to put in a bit more of the low forest, less FX, and also significantly less damping. Just for comparison's sake. It's hard to see that corner there. So it's less FX, should be less road feel, curb feel. Regarding solely the steering, I mean, this custom file for me is unparalleled. This is so good. This is how a car should feel. Yeah. So, curbs. Yeah, it's smoothed out. That's too little. Really, that's too little. Hardly feel it. But regarding the low force boost, I don't sense any difference, honestly, guys. And I mean that feeling is that parameter is mainly for wheels with less torque. So entry-level direct drive or belt-driven wheels. To give you the option to also on low force when there's hardly any load on the car or wheel, that you also feel something. Okay, too little for me. let's put the gain a bit down. Like they say, 35. And the effects up to 50. Regarding the damping, I haven't felt much of a difference. So let's put that to 40 for once. Okay. Don't like it. Way too much effects. It's exactly that feeling, or even more, that I had on the default preset. Oh god. Constant vibrations in the wheel coming from, I don't know what. It's not the road. That's, no. Oh, that's ugly. Excuse me. No. No. What? And also the gain, for me, it's too little. It may depend on the car. Let's say in a Group C, for example, or a vintage Formula 1, I would love to dial that down. But then again, you are free to assign the vehicle FFB gain increase to buttons, right? And can tweak it while driving, so to say. What you're changing is the per vehicle FFB that I've showed you initially in the setup and tuning options screen. This is the value you're tweaking with the buttons on the wheel. But remember, this isn't going to influence the overall gain value here. This gain value means how much of your original torque set in the driver the game will be or could be using. In my case, this now is 35% of 17 Nm, which is in this car a bit too little for me. So let's go back to 40 as a standard value. But again, I know this can be a little confusing because actually you then have at least 3 values to influence your overall power or gain of forces. Yeah, it is as it is, guys. I cannot help it. So now I'm on custom. I'm on 40 gain, low boost, LFB. Let's forget about that. FX back to 20, damping 40. Let's go. Okay, let's put a gear in. Yep. Much less vibrations on the straights. Yeah. And yeah, as I think enough FX feeling when going over curbs. Oh yeah, that's cool. It could be more, and I think in real life it is more. It is definitely a bit more. Even in production cars that have even softer suspensions, it is more, but I like it. I like it thus. I'm looking for a FX setting that helps me to navigate, so to say, to clearly indicate where my tires are, but I don't want to get distracted too much from the driving. Okay, so far so good, guys. Now I'd like to do something pretty much different. Let's go to Laguna Seca and jump into a modern Formula car, which is the FUSA 23, for a final test. So, modern IndyCar time. I go with default setup in this wonderful McLaren livery on a track which is known to be narrow, unforgiving, super bumpy, and, well, full of walls. In a car modern enough and suspension less enough to give us a different driving feel. So again, let's have a look here. My force feedback, haven't changed anything. Custom 42, 20, 40. Let's go. Yeah, what I like so much about this Custom FFB is the way the steering wheel, the forces there, the handling, how that works. I mean, maybe I've just get used to it, but I think this is how it should be. It feels so natural. No matter what car, no matter what car. And in the end, guys, yes, we're all looking for a natural, realistic, maybe immersive driving experience. But on the other end, do you always want to completely reset your FFB settings and driving settings when changing a car? I think nobody really wants that. To again and again start from scratch. So also I am looking for as many general and basic settings that I do not have to alter all the time. And the custom FFB as well as the settings, the in-game settings, I've shown you, for me, work as a pretty good basis. As well as the online profile in TrueDrive, yeah, which is one of the most popular and used and downloaded. I'm struggling a bit with the setup here, but the feeling I have is, yeah, what it should be. I mean, I've got all the info I need to keep the car on the track. Maybe some more effects would be good to feel the bumps even more. But that's just one slider, guys, and you're up there. The overall gain also could be more, and I think despite the power steering, it is, of course, different in the real car. But again, I am not a professional driver. I am not trained like them. And normally I'm sitting here in my rig for a couple of hours straight. I cannot endure the forces the real drivers have to endure, nor, by the way, do esports drivers. They are normally looking for the most efficient. Oh, terminal damage? That's bad. Well, okay. Is that karma? I hope not. Yeah, guys, nevertheless, let me finish this video with a little summary here. These are the settings that, with my setup, with my equipment, which is a Simucube 2 Sport, work for me best. I'm using the Custom FFB from rFuktor 501K. The latest version came out in April. So I'm using that on gain 40. LFB, in my opinion, doesn't play any role. The effects between 5 and 25, something about that. Damping for me is something between 30 and 50, giving me that most realistic wheel feel. 0 is no option, 100 is no option. The recommendation is 30 to 50. If you don't want to use a custom FFB, my recommendation is the Default Plus. Default Plus comes pretty close to the custom FFB I'm using. Just play around with the other values and dial in as much effects and damping on your wheel base as you want. The default setup, well, no. If that was the only one in the game, I wouldn't like AMS2 as much as I do. Again, guys, this is just my personal feelings, my personal settings with which I get the most realism, immersion, and last but not least, fun out of the game. So I'm happy if some of these infos may help you to enhance your driving feel, and if you've taken something good out of it, please don't forget to leave a like. It's very much appreciated. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. See you on the next one. Bye.